Hello, welcome to the episode called The Socialization of Gender, How Children Learn the Rules Before They Know the World. If you walk into any preschool classroom in America, you see it, not written on the walls, not taught in the lesson plan, but woven into tiny choices children make. The boys clustered around the trains and cars, the girls gather at the dollhouse or the play kitchen, and when a child wanders across that line, that invisible line, someone almost always notices. But here's the part we often miss. Not every children learn these rules the same way. A black girl, a white boy, a child with an immigrant family, a child with two moms, a child with disability. Each one of these receives a different set of message about who they are allowed to be. Today, we're exploring how children learn the unwritten rules of gender, and how the rules shift depends on the identity they carry and the worlds they move through. Scene 1. The Toy Store. Imagine a little boy named Billy wandering through a toy store. He isn't thinking about gender or rules or expectation. He's just looking. Then something catches his eye. A baby doll that reminds him of his sister. He reaches for it instinctively, like kids do when they see something familiar. But before his hands can get there, he hears it. That's for girls, not boys. Billy paused. He still wants the doll, but he pulls his hand back and drifts towards the boy section, the place he's supposed to be according to society. But here is where intersectionality matters. If Billy was a black boy, the correction might carry a different weight. Black boys are often policed more harshly, seen as older, less innocent. A simple "that's for girls" might come with an added layer. Be tough, be strong, don't show softness, and even the ideology of homophobia. Because many black boys learn early the fear of being labeled too feminine or too soft or acting gay, even if no one says it. The tone, the side eye, the warning embedded in the correction. Developmental psychologists call this intersectional socialization. When race, gender, and sexuality expectation overlaps so tightly that a child learns multiple rules at once. So when a black boy reaches for a doll, he isn't just crossing a gender line. He's crossing a racialized line, a masculinity line, a heteronormative line. And the correction he receives, even if just a quick comment, teaches him that stepping outside those boundaries isn't just wrong, it's risky. For many black boys, those lesson becomes don't give anyone a reason to question your masculinity. Don't act in the ways that people might read as queer. Don't show softness. Be protected. These aren't just gender wars, they're survival wars, shaped by racism, homophobia, and the adultification of black children. If Billy was a Latino boy, he might hear a version tied to cultural expectation of masculinity, machismo, shaping what emotions or interests that are accepted. If Billy was a trans or non-conforming child, the correction might feel like a warning. Stay in the box, don't make people uncomfortable. These are the same moments, different meanings, different consequences. And moments like this just don't shape behavior, they shape the thinking. This is where gender schema theory comes in. Psychology Sandra Bem argues that children build mental frameworks, schemas, that helps them organize the words into things for boys and things for girls. But those schemas are also shaped by race, culture, class, and community. A child in a low-income household might learn gender roles tied to survival: who cooks, who works, who sacrifices. A child in a Creole family might learn more expansive map. A child in a conservative religious community might learn stricter boundaries. Intersectionality does not change the theories, it changes the lived experience of it. Scene 2. The science. Developmental psychologist has been tracking gender learning for decades, but the pattern starts very early. By the time children turn 2, many already shows preference for toys adults labeled as for boys or for girls. And by 3, they're not just noticing the categories, they're using them. Activities, clothing, even emotions get sorted into mental boxes marked boys or girls. These aren't random quirks, they're well-documented developmental milestones. Studies by Jahava, Hines, and Glombook 2010 shows toddlers gravitating towards gender-type toys. Research by Alexander, Wilcox, and Woods 2009 find that even infants as young as 3 to 8 months shows visual preference for dolls versus trucks. By the age 3, children apply gender categories with striking consistency. Works by Halim and Ruble 2013-2014 document a phase called gender rigidity. When the rules feel absolute, it has to be the way or no way mindset. Classic research from Clark, Nash, and Buckley to 1978. The article work by Martin, Ruble, and Scobell 2002 shows that children actively construct gender categories and enforce them with conviction. And by the age of 4 and 5, many children police each other's behaviors more strictly than adults do. Studies by Kane 1996, Logos and Down 1980, and O'Brien 1983 capture preschool confidently declaring, "That's for boys," or "Girls don't do that," as if they've been appointed tiny cultural gatekeepers. But intersectionality which is added. Black girls often labeled bossy or sassy earlier than white girls. Boys of colors may be punished more harshly for gender nonconforming behavior. Immigrant children may navigate two sets of gender expectation, one at home and one at school. Disabled children may be desexualized or overprotected, shaping how adults gender them. Children in poverty may have fewer opportunities to explore non-traditional role. Children aren't just absorbing gender norms, they're enforcing them, and the norms don't land on every child equally. A girl's perspective. Now imagine a little girl, 3, maybe 4, standing in the middle of a preschool classroom. The teacher has expectation of what she's going to be, or play with, or anything. But who is she? If she's a white girl, adults may encourage her gentleness, her helpfulness, her sweetness. If she was a black girl, adults may expect maturity, strength, and independence for earlier. If she was an Asian girl, she may be praised for quietness and obedience. If she was a Latina girl, she may be encouraged to be nurturing or family-oriented. If she was a girl with disability, adults may limit her choice for safety. If she was a trans girl, she may be navigated whether adults see her as a girl at all. So now this girl is trying to pick a toy to play with in the classroom. She remembers the way adults smile when she picks up the baby doll, the way the kids laughed at her when she tried the firefighter helmet, the way the picture book shows girls caring, comforting, helping, and boys playing, exploring, and fixing. By the age of 3, she's already sorted the world into gender boxes. But the shape of those boxes depends on the identity she carries. And when she steps outside those lines, the reaction she gets depends on who adults believe she is. For many girls, gender expectations don't arrive in a single message. They accumulate through everyday moments, the moments they filter through race, class, culture, and ability. Scene 4. The bigger system. Gender socialization doesn't come from one place, it comes from everywhere. From the clothes sold in separate aisles, from the cartoons where the boys save the day and the girls just support them, from the way adults praise boys for being strong and girls for being helpful, from the silence when a child steps outside the script. But intersectionality reminds us media stereotypes differs by race, gender roles differ by culture, expectation differs by class, opportunities differs by ability, safety differs by identity. Gender is a social curriculum, but not the same curriculum for every child. Scene 5. Possibility. But the story doesn't end here. Children may learn gender roles early, but they can also open to rewrite them. When adults challenge stereotypes gently and consistently and without shame, kids start to imagine a wider world for themselves. Picture a black boy who loves glitter. He twirls a sparkly ribbon in the sunlight, waiting to see if anyone will call him soft. Instead, his teacher smiles and say, "It looks like you're having fun." Picture a Latina girl who loves robots. She's the only one in the block corner, building a tower taller than she is. Adult kneels beside her and say, "Show me how you do that." Picture a child in an immigrant family navigating two cultures. They try on a superhero cape one minute and then a princess gown the next. The parent says, "Wear whatever feels right." Picture a disabled child exploring dress up. Adults adapt the costume so they can participate fully. Picture a non-binary child who doesn't feel at home in either category. When an adult simply says, "You get to decide what feels right," the child learns that identity isn't a problem, it's a story they get to write. These moments matter. They teach children that gender isn't a box, it's a landscape, wide, and full of paths they're allowed to explore. When adults create space instead of limits, children do not just break stereotypes, they expand the sense of who they become. Scene 6. Personal reflection. As we grew up, We didn't have the language for gender, socialization, or intersectionality, for that matter. We had no understanding of how environments could affect children, even if we didn't realize it at the time. All I knew, the tiny moments, the comments, the jokes, and the corrections that taught me which part of myself are welcome and which I should keep to myself. When you're seen as a black girl in a society, you're taught directly and indirectly that softness is a luxury you don't get to have. You have to be strong, composed, and responsible. You don't have the privilege of being seen as fragile, innocent. Meanwhile, I watch my white counterparts be treated as delicate, protected, and allowed to be vulnerable in ways I wasn't. So even before I understand gender, I understand the differences in how girlhood was distributed. Though girlhood came with softness, mine came with expectation, and queerness added another layer. The parts of me that didn't fit in the script, the ways I expressed myself, the ways I liked, the way I felt, weren't just wrong for a girl, they were wrong for a black girl. They were wrong for the version of femininity people expected from me. So when I reached for something that didn't match the version of girlhood people expected from me, the reaction wasn't just about gender. It was about race, culture, and queerness at all the same time. A correction might have been a small thing for someone else, but it felt heavier for me. It wasn't just girls don't do that, it was you don't do that. Looking back, I see exactly how social learning theory played out in my life. Those micro corrections shaped what I reached for, what I hid, and what I believed about myself. And gender schema theory explains how I built mental boxes for what girls were supposed to be, boxes that never had room for the way I actually felt. Intersectionality helped me understand why I was navigating one rule book. I was navigating several stacked up on top of each other, and none of them had a chapter for a queer black girl trying to figure out what she fits. It took years to realize the boxes were the problem, not me. Years to unlearn the rules that never belonged to me in the first place. Years to understand that gender isn't a script I have to perform, it's a landscape I get to explore. And that's why this conversation matters, because kids deserve to learn that lesson early before the world teaches them to shrink. Gender socialization becomes early, quietly and powerfully, but so does possibility for change. Every time a child reaches for something outside the rules, adults have a choice: reinforce the boundary or widen the world. Because children aren't just learning who they are, they're learning who they're allowed to become, and that answer should never depend on the race, class, culture, ability, or identity. Thank you for listening.